Hi everyone, I'm attorney Aiden Kramer with the Law Office of Aiden Kramer in Colorado, and you're watching All Up in Your Business. In this episode of All Up in Your Business, I'm going to talk about independent contractor agreements. An independent contractor is anybody who performs a service for your business who's not an employee. So when I work with businesses, as the attorney, I am a contractor. If I hire a bookkeeper to work for me, but not as an employee, then they're my contractor. So regardless of the service that's going to be performed by the contractor, it's always a great idea to have something in writing that describes your relationship with the contractor. And so I'm going to walk through some of the important terms that you want to make sure are clarified in your agreement with your contractor. First off, obviously, the agreement needs to describe what the contractor is going to be doing. What service is the contractor performing? Next, again, pretty obvious, payment. How much is the contractor going to make? What are you paying them? When are you going to be paying them? You also want to clarify in the agreement who's paying for expenses. Let's say you're hiring a designer to design your website. Who's going to be paying for licensing expenses for photos or hosting fees? Next, you want to make sure the agreement specifies who owns what. And this is huge in an independent contractor relationship. Just by default, when you work with an independent contractor, the contractor owns whatever it is the contractor creates. So that web designer technically owns your website that they've created for you, unless the contract says otherwise. Unless the contract says that it's a work for hire or there's some other language in the contract saying that you are going to own what the contractor creates. Because without that language in there, the contractor is going to have ownership of it, and that might not be what you want. Non-disclosure or confidentiality clauses are often an important provision in an independent contractor agreement. If the contractor is going to be exposed to confidential information about your business, like client lists, financial information, if that's stuff that you don't want out there in the public, then having a confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement in your contractor agreement is going to be important because it says that the contractor can't disclose that confidential information. And then, of course, the term and termination of the contract. How long is this contract going to be effective? Is the contractor going to work for you for a year and then the contract terminates, or is it indefinite? And under what circumstances can either of you terminate the agreement? If the contractor messes up and you don't like the work, you might want to be able to terminate the agreement. Or if you don't pay, your contractor is going to want to terminate it in that case too. It's also a good idea to have an indemnification provision in your contract. Indemnification provisions will protect either of the parties if the other party does something wrong. I made a video a few weeks ago about indemnification provisions specifically because they are kind of complicated. So instead of getting in more depth about that, I'm going to say just check back for that video if you have more questions about what indemnification means. You also want your agreement to make it clear that this contractor is an independent contractor, not an employee. You're not partners. This isn't a joint venture. They're an independent contractor. They're not going to have taxes withheld. They're not going to get paid sick leave or vacation pay. They're not going to get health benefits. Independent contractors don't get those things, and you want all of that in writing so it's clear that your contractor is an independent contractor. So those are just some of the important terms that you want to have in your contractor agreement. Of course, the exact terms might vary depending on what the contractor is doing and your specific situation. So when you're thinking about hiring an independent contractor, it's always a good idea to seek the advice of an attorney with drafting that agreement because you want it drafted specifically for your needs. If you're in Colorado and would like any assistance with an independent contractor agreement, please feel free to contact me. My phone number and email are below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up if you like All Up in Your Business and want more. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Aiden Kramer, and I'll see you next time.